welcome back to another episode of Tits, Tea and Trauma with me, Neve. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today it's a Friday that I'm filming this, so if you see me sipping on a little bit of a mojito, mind your damn business, because it's very rare that I get a Friday off being a hospitality girly. First of all, before I get into the nooks and crannies of the podcast, I just want to say thank you to everyone who has followed and supported the podcast so far at this point of filming this, because I'm pre-recording a lot of my episodes. I have like 130 followers, which is nothing, I'm very well aware, but it's 130 more than I had a week ago when I started posting about this. And if I can make one person, have a little pep in their step or feel seen or whatever, it's all worth it, isn't it? Today I'm really excited for this episode because we are going to talk about my sexuality, and I'm excited about this because I want this podcast to be a space for queer people and for a space for us to be honest and to... It's a hard thing to navigate, okay, at least for me, which we're gonna get into very, very soon, being queer or gay or bi or lesbian, whatever you use to describe yourself. It's never really straightforward, and there's gotta be, like I said in like the trailer of my podcast and stuff, there's gotta be other people like me, and I've had a hard time... This sounds so stupid for me to say, like, do take it with a pinch of salt, but seeing queers like me represented in the media, growing up, the media and stuff present a queer woman in a specific type of way, quite masculine or whatever, and those types of lesbians, queer, bisexual people do exist. But growing up, I feel like I never really saw myself, or in my life, I never really had queer role models. But anyway, we'll get all into that in a second. I just wanted to preface this episode. We're gonna get juicy. We're gonna find out every single intrusive thought, every single bit of internalized biphobia is coming out in this episode, and it's been about 24 years coming. It's time for me to speak my gay little truth, alright? Yeah. I feel quite stunning today, I must say. I've just had my hair done and I feel fabulous. I feel great. Look, she did such a good job. I mean, we are on a podcast, so if you're not watching the video, you won't be able to see my hair, but when you imagine it, it looks absolutely fabulous. That's all you need to know, isn't it? And before filming this podcast, I had the girl dinner of girl dinners. Like, I literally had I'm telling you this because it's actually embarrassing. Like, you're 24, like, cook bitch, but I can't. I mean, I can, maybe. Shut up. I had plain pasta and some, like frozen vegetables. I had some of them, but not even like, I didn't even like boil the kettle to cook them. They were like microwavable, and then I put that in a bowl and I had some sriracha. I was going to add some cheese, but my cheese was moldy, so I settled for sriracha. That's going to be my hyperfixation of the week, actually, because I've been on a sriracha grind. I've been adding that shit to everything. So, because I forgot we're doing that now, we're doing a hyperfixation of the week, and so yeah, mine is kind of boring. It's just sriracha. But yeah, I'm gonna stop beating around the bush, if you pardon the pun, and we're just gonna get right into the sexuality of it all. Okay, I'm just gonna have a quick drinky drink first. Should we have some ASMR? Oh, I hated that because I can hear myself. So for those of you who don't know, I identify as queer, but it wasn't always this label, and I'm also not 100% comfortable with the label because I know that maybe the reasoning behind my label isn't like 100% authentic, and we'll get into that in a sec. But let's just go way back to like when I sort of first came out, what that was like for me and things like that. Because as a bisexual, I don't know... Oh! I literally just said as a bisexual. Like, this whole podcast, a lot of it is going to be about the struggles I have with the label of bisexuality because of external biphobia that I've experienced and also internalized biphobia. But I feel like I just outed myself. Like, maybe you are bisexual, girl, and that's okay. If you're listening to this and you are bisexual and you are accepting of yourself, teach me. Send some of that like aura over to me, because anyways, let's go back to the start. So I feel like, you know, I never had that. I've spoke to like gay people before, and like you usually get asked that question of like, when did you realize? Did you know when you were younger? And I feel like I've spoken to a lot of gay people, primarily gay men, which I'm not sure if there's like some science or like, I don't know, behind that, but who say that they knew like from the second that they were born, basically they always felt like they were different. But I don't really have any memory of sort of feeling or thinking like that when I was like young, like I'm talking like child, like 5, 7, whatever. Thinking about it, I wonder if that's because when you think of, stereotypically, this is not my opinion, but a lot of times when you think of like gay men and stereotypes of gay and straight men, and I feel like a lot of gay men maybe who had that feeling of different when they were younger did things like dress in their sister's clothes and things like that. Some things that, you know, back then, or probably even now, some people who saw their son doing that would be like, oh, like, he might be a bit gay. Whereas if you have a girl, or at least when I was younger and I wanted to dress more tomboy, which actually I did have a phase of that. No one that goes, oh, like, you're a little lesbian. I'm the wee lesbian, Claire. That was going to come out at some point in this pod, wasn't it? But yeah, as far as I'm aware, when I was younger, there was no speculation from me or from anyone in my family or anything. In fact, that I don't ever remember queerness or gayness or whatever ever being talked about. I mean, I was an only child, my parents were both straight, and I don't think that was really on their radar. I do remember, and this was probably my first encounter with bisexuality when I was about 30, either 12, 13, 14, I'm not 100% sure. And one of my mum's cousins was getting married to a woman. And I remember being on the way to the wedding, and I was at a very impressionable age, and I know I was impressionable because, now this is fucking embarrassing, but I remember I wore a like strapless Hollister dress, and I can't believe I'm admitting this, but I remember I stuffed it with socks because I didn't have no titties. I was a bit of a late bloomer, but whilst we were in the car and I was there with my Hollister stuffed sock tits, my mum was like saying, oh yeah, like, my cousin, we're going to a wedding, it's 2 girls, whatever. And I don't remember really thinking anything of it. Like, I feel like innately I always had this affinity towards queerness, which I'll get into. But she was like, you know, off the rip, apparently she's bisexual because before this woman, she'd been with men before. And my mum was like baffled over this concept of bisexuality. And I remember her literally saying something along the lines of the stereotype of, I don't understand how you can't choose. So if you really deep that, is it that surprising that as an adult and as I've sort of become aware of my potential bisexuality, there's always this voice in the back of my head saying, can't you choose one? And you know what, Sharon, that's my mum's name, I wish I could, because if sexuality was a choice, I would date women, let me get that clear, but it's not. Ugh. And something that's like more nuanced to my experience, but obviously my mum's passed away now, so I can't even have that sort of conversation with her. I can't get her approval. Like, I'll never ever know how she really felt about my bisexuality. because when we did talk about it, it wasn't really a very positive experience, which I suppose we'll get into now with the subject of coming out. So yeah, at 14, whatever age, bra stuffing age anyway, that was sort of my experience with queerness or gayness or bisexuality, whatever. And again, I come from a small town. It wasn't spoke about, at least in my circle, my group of friends. Not to presume their sexuality now, but as far as I'm aware, it was so straight. And I suppose, yeah, when I actually deep it, there was me and another girl in that group, and we were always a little bit different. And she, as far as I'm aware, is the only other person in that group who has explored women. So maybe there was something a little bit different about me, but also, like, I don't know. And I was really close to these girls, and I remember having conversations, I think, mainly with my best friend Grace. And now I look back, Grace, if you're listening, I'm like, did I? Because I don't think I ever fancied any of my friends, which is like crazy because they're all literally so beautiful. But I remember speaking to Grace about, like, I don't, for some reason I was trying to be like, are you not a bit gay? Like, we both really loved Ariana Grande, and I was like sat there and I was like, is there not a little bit of you that's like, ooh, like, I could see her in a little gay way? Um and I don't know whether deep down maybe I wanted Grace to say that she was gay, because I think it was just like I was trying to get a community, get someone on my side, and at that time we were the closest. But then I actually remember I came out. Actually, no. And I remember I don't actually recall there being a time of, say, like me when I was 15 or whatever, sat in bed and getting the eureka moment of like, oh, maybe I'm gay. It was all very gradual for me. But I do remember when I was in this group of girls and we'd see other pretty, fashionable, whatever girls, I'd always be like, oh, like, she's like fit, whatever. They'd always be like, oh, like, I like their clothes. And I think I was being quite overt with like the way that I described what I saw when I saw like a pretty person. And I think that I was trying to like soft launch my gayness, which is weird because I don't, like I said, have any cognitive like thought of or memory of me having the cognitive thought of like, oh, like, I'm gay. However, I remember when I was 16, it was like the last day of school. I feel like we were having a party for some reason. I don't know if it was one of my friend's birthdays or an end of year party, but I took the girl whose house we were at into like her conservatory, and I remember being like, I'm bi. And this bitch gave me no reaction. Obviously to be indifferent in a positive way, like not make a fuss or anything. Like, I get that, like, it wasn't anything negative on her side. She was probably trying to not be like, oh, what, like, make a big issue out of it. But me being me was like, where's the cannon, where's the applause, where's the like, oh, what? And I feel like if I'd come out maybe as a lesbian, because for some reason that word is so sometimes frowned upon, or such a big word to use, there would have been more of a reaction. Maybe there wouldn't have been. But I remember at the time being like, oh, like, maybe it's not a big deal then, and maybe I don't need to worry about it so much, which you'd think would be a positive thing, but I think it just sort of had a bit of a negative effect, clearly, because I'm still questioning my sexuality nearly 10 years later. But yeah, there was no one, I never had people always in the queer, or I feel like especially lesbian or women loves women community, talk about having homoerotic friendships, which, if you don't know what that is, it's where like you and your same sex friend are like weirdly close, and like really you're actually like in love with each other or fancy each other or whatever, but no one crosses, or sometimes that boundary does get crossed. But I never had that. Like, we were in this close girl group and we were really close, but there was never that romantic spark even on my side. Obviously they're all straight, so that's not gonna be the case. However, I do remember I would have really, really intense friendships, and I would like have a best friend and it would like move around, but I don't know if that's gay or if that's man BPD. So, however, I was thinking recently there was one girl I used to say I had a friend crush on, and she was in the year above, and now I'm like, did I just have a crush? Because I thought she was really pretty and cool and stuff like that, and we did become friends, and but there was nothing, like, I don't know her sexuality at all. There was nothing ever like that. Like, pretty sure she had a boyfriend or something. But now I do think, like, did I fancy her? Because I mean, I wouldn't blame me. She was beautiful and really cool and really nice. But yeah, I never had any sort of gay experience or any sort of sexual experience. Ugh. Why do I cringe so much when I say that? In high school anyway, like, all of my friends, again, in that girl group, you know how in high school there's like a hierarchy, there's like, well, at least in our school there was like the populars, and then like there's like a group underneath the populars, and then my friends were like in the middle, where they got invited to like the private school or like popular people parties, and then me and the other girl, like, who I mentioned before, who were a little bit different, we were like on the bottom end of that. Like, for some reason we didn't really mix with those people. Why did I go off onto this tangent? Oh yeah, because what I'm trying to say is they would go to these parties and they would like kiss boys and, I don't know, get fucking fingered in the bathroom. Not for me, but the point is, like, I wasn't cool. Like, I was fucking weird, and oh my god, I sound like Jughead, like, off Riverdale. But like, I actually, like, I feel like I've had a glow up. Let's say, like, I had like a side fringe, I had braces, like, it wasn't going well, bruv. It wasn't going well. But yeah, I never even explored men at that point. It wasn't until I got to college that I started having relationships with people. And you know what's funny, and that I don't think about enough, is that the first crush that was sort of acknowledged in college, as in, like, I told them, we went on a date, was with someone who at that time was female presenting. And I remember having that whole crush on them. I remember we were in like we were in the lecture hall of college. It must have been some sort of assembly or something. And I'd seen them around, and I thought they were stunning, which they are. And they came over to me and was like, I like you back. And that was me. That was me written off into Gayland. That was the last push I needed to fancy women, was this person that I fancied telling me they liked my bag. Because in my head, you've just proposed to me, and I see us now 10 years down the line, married with kids. Obviously not the case, but in my little head. And then I remember I went on like their Instagram and stuff, and they had like a rainbow somewhere, or a rainbow flag, and I was like, and I don't even know if they know this, but I remember, I think I put on my story some book that I was reading because I wanted them to reply, and it worked. I think we like went on one date, and then my first boyfriend came into the picture, and I started chatting to him because he was going through a breakup, and I felt for him and like wanted to reach out to him, and in classic me style ended up being with him myself. But when we were sort of speaking, he sort of gave me an ultimatum, and it was either like, you stop talking to that person or you stop talking to me, which was kind of shitty, I think. But lo and behold, I chose him, and me and the other person like stayed on good terms and stuff. Still, like, do you know what I mean? It wasn't beefy or anything, but again, that may have been a turning point of like, I could have been so sure. Not that it would have gone anywhere with that other person, because if it would have, it would have. Do you know what I mean? Like, they were on the same page as me. Like, they didn't really, I think from past conversations, they didn't really see, like, we got on as friends and we weren't meant to be together. They were meant to be with someone else. But that boy was like the start of like 3 male relationships in a row. And again, the group that I was with in college wasn't queer at all, even though I did performing arts. Like, to be fair, I didn't do performing arts until second year. I did acting and theatre in first year, which had a lot of straights, which, I don't know, each to their own. But when I did get into the performing arts course, I did make queer friends. But my original friendship group and my actual group, like, I had Brandon, shout out Brandon, as a gay friend from the start. But like, that was like separate from my friendship group. But my friendship group was straight boys, straight girls, and I ended up dating 2 of the boys, so I kept it very close to home. Don't fucking do that. By the way, rookie era. Never ever, 1, date in a friendship group, 2, date 2 people in a friendship group. I was clearly unwell, let's just say that. But even throughout dating those men, I was open about liking girls and things like that. But again, in my area, in my circle, in the town that we lived in, the clubbing scene, the places that we went to were not queer. There was no gay village. Actually, I'm from Blackpool. There are actually a lot of gay clubs in Blackpool, but the only time you would go to a gay club was this place called Flamingos, because it was open until like 8 a.m. or something, and when all the clubs closed at 6, you'd go to Mingo's. So it wasn't like a gay culture. It was like every man and their dog sniffed up to their eyeballs, like, just trying to find a place to get in. Do you know what I mean? So I wasn't able to express my sexuality. And do you know what? It actually makes me sad. And I think that's why I'm so desperate to do it at my big age now, because having groups to be in does actually really help. Like, when I'm around other queer people, I feel so seen and so happy and so uplifted. But even when I'm in those groups, I tend to identify as queer over bisexual. And the reason why is biphobia and things like that. But I'm going to put a pin in that, and we will discuss that. But first, I'm going to go and discuss signs that I was gay. And a big one for me with that is the way I was an ally. I was an ally. Like, whenever someone would be homophobic, I'd be the first one to stand up and be like, shut the fuck up. Like, whenever I would see gay things, like, I still just not like it. When I went to Pride this summer just gone, I walked in the parade, and as I was walking there to like the start bit, I was sobbing because the gays just make me cry. It must be something like innate inside me that feels connected to like queerness, and it just makes me emotional. And I literally used to say, and I'm sure who else, put your hands up, who else is gay now and is out there, but when they were like a teenager or whatever, when there was like people being homophobic or something, they would say, I'm not gay, but I'm an ally, so shut the fuck up. Or you'd be like, I'm not gay, but like, you are gay. Sorry, that was really loud, but you are. That's why you care so much, bitch. Like, you're not as morally clean as you thought you were. You are just queer. And that's why you care so much about their rights. Yeah, that's what I'd say. I used to say, I'm not gay, but I support gay rights. Not gay where, bitch. You you are gay. And do you know what annoys me as well? I don't have a full on answer for when, people say, like, who was your, like, gay awakening? Like, I don't actually know. But I was deep in it the other day, and do you know what I think it was? H2O. H2O. I was so, because my type, if you ask me to describe my type in a woman, like, physically, like, obviously it doesn't have to be this, but this is just like, if you were to describe my perfect type on paper, it would be short, brown hair, round face, big eyes. And do you know who has brown hair, round face, big eyes? No, not Cleo. Is it Cleo? Phoebe Tompkins or whatever from H2O. She was the blueprint. Okay. And I feel like for a lot of people it's Ricky, because she was more like, she was like the surfer, like, duty type person, but I didn't fancy Ricky. I fancied Cleo, and then the other blonde girl, was it Cleo? Let me find out their names. Yeah, I just looked it up. I fancied Cleo and Emma, and then I saw Isabella when I just looked up, and I think she came in later or something, because I'm so sure someone blonde came in later, and I was like, jaw dropped when I was like I must have fancied these girls so much because they had me in pool with my legs together, swimming like a fucking mermaid. They did. Like, I would have laid down my life for the H2O girlies. And I remember, like, Ricky dated, and I think I fancied him. Was it like Zayn or something? And I'm so sure that I was like, for some reason this isn't adding up, because in my head Ricky is gay. I don't know why, because obviously she's not. I mean, maybe she's a bad queen, but yeah. So without me knowing, I think H2O was my gay awakening. But this is the thing, like, I feel like I had crushes when I was younger on girls, but I didn't know they were crushes. But why didn't I know they were crushes? Because I knew that my male crushes were crushes, but is that just because they were pushed onto me? Like, when I think of, like, my first male crush in real life, I know their name. Like, I was like 4. I remember his name. I remember, like, the outline of what he looked like. I wrote a poem about him when I was in year 4 about, like, first love, even though, like, I hadn't seen him in years, like, because my parents pushed on me without intending to, that I fancied this boy. Like, and I remember making friends with a boy on holiday, and I was in nappies. This is how young I was. I was in nappies. So maybe I don't even remember it, but my parents at that time, and my parents still years after, would be like, oh, I remember that boy, you both fancied each other, like, he was a year older than you, like, you were 3, he was 4, and, like, you proper fancied him. Did I, though? Or are you just telling me that I did, and now I've subscribed to a whole sexuality because of that one boy on holiday in France that allegedly I fancied, even though I was in nappies? And, like, can you even speak when you still need nappies? I don't know. Anyways, we will talk about compulsory heterosexuality in due time. Now, let's go back to the one we've all been waiting for, the internalized biphobia. Because I suffer so badly with this, and I've experienced biphobia to my face by someone in the queer community, hence why, and multiple times, may I add, but hence why I use the label queer rather than bisexual, because I feel like I use it as a shield. Because I feel like if I say I'm bisexual, people won't believe me or won't see me as queer, or I won't be queer enough to be in that space. Or, like, if I'm speaking to a straight person, they will think, oh, whatever, like, you're just, like, bi, like, it's not really real, you're just straight. Like when I came out as bi and I didn't really get any kind of reaction, like, it doesn't really get acknowledged that much. And it's so sad, because I genuinely, as a probably bisexual person, question whether or not I really am every single day. Like, first of all, when I have been on dating apps, on the queer side of dating apps, I literally, when I first got them when I was 18, would see lesbians put in their bio on Tinder that they don't match with any bisexuals. So then I would change my sexuality to queer. And that was probably when it all started. Like, how are you actually singling out someone's whole sexuality? Like, I can love you just as much as I could love you if I was a lesbian. Like, what does it matter that I've been with men before or I've loved men before? It's so crazy. But then I actually had an experience in person. Now, I was in GAY in Manchester, in Gay Village, with my straight friends, because my straight friends are allies. And we were obviously in the club, whatever. And my type is femmes, and I saw this pretty femme girl, bitch, and I started chatting to her, and I can't remember how we got onto it, but maybe I said like, oh, like, are you, like, what, like, are you gay? Like, because you never know, like, people in Manchester's gay village, like, all my straight friends are there, you don't actually know if people are gay or not. And she said yes, she's a lesbian. And I said I was bisexual. Or no, actually, I didn't say that. She said, I'd never date a bisexual. You're not bisexual, are you? And I was like, well, yeah, I am, actually. And she walked away, and I went over to my straight friends, and my straight friends, but like, I did go over to my straight friends in the gay club, and they were looking like, they were like, what the fuck was that? Because like, they saw that she walked away, and like, there was like a bit of an attitude and stuff like that. They watched it happen, because obviously they were encouraging me to go speak to her, because usually I'm a pussy and I don't speak to girls. And I told them what happened. They were like, what the fuck? Like, we can't believe that happens in your own community. And I was like, thank you for validating me, guys, because if it's shocking them that that happens, then, like, I don't know, it's just validating, isn't it? And like, why is it happening in our own community, guys? Like, come on. And even when I first, when I first said to my mum that I was bisexual, this is kind of mad, this story, but it was because I told her that I was friends with someone at college, and he was bisexual. I can't remember the context of why that was relevant, but like, I must have been telling her something about him. And then she went, oh my God, like, I don't know. My mum was mentally ill. Maybe it was the mental illness, because it was actually fucked, and trigger warning. But she said like, oh, like, don't date him because bisexuals have AIDS, which is, there are so many levels to how wrong and messed up that is. First of all, to say that about bisexual people, but second of all, to, I mean, in this day and age, insinuate that having AIDS is dirty and a bad thing, because it's not. And it can be treated, and it can be prevented, and a lot of queer people, like, I'll get upset if I speak about it, because a lot of queer people lost their lives because of such ignorance. But my retort to that was, well, I'm bisexual. And then we didn't speak for 2 days, and then it was never mentioned again. And I remember I mentioned my sexuality again outside a bar in Manchester with my parents, and again, no reaction. Like, I don't know what that was. And there was also like mentions of like, oh, well, if you're with a woman, this is my mom, well, if you're with a woman, like, how are you going to give me grandkids? Well, first of all, she's not fucking here to see whether I do have grandkids or not. Second of all, that's just homophobic, because I could literally have children even if I am in a relationship with another woman, so fuck you. And again, like I said, this is so hard because I can never ever resolve this stuff with my mum, because she passed away. So over the past few years, since I was 18 and since I started exploring, I moved to Manchester, I moved away from a small town, there's a whole gay village, like, I was old enough to be on Tinder and have girls on Tinder and things like that, and I would talk to girls. that's when this sort of internalized biphobia really became a problem for me. Like, I would, and still do, genuinely sit up at night and be like, how can I like both? Like, I would look at my relationships with men and be like, well, I must like them because I wanted to jump off a bridge when one of my ex-boyfriends broke up with me. Like, I was emotionally involved there. I slept with them and it was like, okay. Like, no, but on a serious level, like, when with my boyfriends, like, I did enjoy sleeping with them and things like that and being affectionate. Cringe, but I did. So it's like, oh, when I doubt myself a lot, I'm like, oh, maybe I'm just a lesbian because this is I could do a whole thing on like my relationship with men and how I like don't want to fancy them and how I have a hard time accepting that I might like men because how do I say this and be like, because like as a woman, experiences with men aren't all that positive, and you can sort of pick up what I'm putting down with that. I'm not gonna go into like the psychology of the way men treat women. I shouldn't have to, but I was grappling with that. But then I was also like, oh well, because I've had those relationships, they must be what's real, and like I'm not actually gay and I'm just doing it for attention and I don't actually like girls. But it's like, why would I put myself through all this turmoil just to like pretend to be gay? Like, girl, you like titties, just accept it, accept your fate because it's a really good one, like accept it with open arms. But I went through a period where I was like, well, because I was obviously attracted to women, look at them. Look at them. Look at Cleo from H2O, you know? The evidence was clear. It was right in front of me. So I was like, oh, maybe I'm sexually attracted to women, but not emotionally. Like, I can't be in a relationship with them. And then when it comes to men, maybe I'm emotionally attracted to men, but not really sexually attracted to them. Because, like I said, even though I have had sex with men, when I think about doing so, I feel icky and I don't want to do it. And, like, when I look at a man's body, it's just like, okay. Like, you know how people like genuinely go to like Magic Mike or like male strippers? Like, I don't want that. Like, I would go to Magic Mike as a joke because I think it's funny. Whereas if it was Magic Melissa, I'd be all for it. I'd be like, let's go, girls. Magic Melissa. Do you know what I mean? But then I got a girlfriend, and again we broke up, and I wanted to shave my head and set myself on fire, and yet I still lay awake at night and think, nah, like, you're probably just straight and you're just doing it for attention. Like, what does it take for me to accept that I'm gay? I have had a relationship with a girl, I have slept with a girl, I have wanted to shave my head over heartbreak from a girl. What more proof do I need to prove to myself that I am gay and I am valid enough? And I don't know if anyone else experiences this, but because of like this insecurity in my own sexuality and my own being gay enough, which may have stemmed from these people in my past, like that girl in the club saying that she wouldn't date bisexuals, this may have stemmed from all the lesbians that I've encountered who have refuse to date bi people because they believe that they're not actually gay. But it has made me feel the need to present myself in certain ways. And I saw a TikTok about this actually, but it was kind of the opposite. They said on this TikTok that when they're bisexual, when they're in a relationship with a man, they dress more masculine, and when they're in a relationship with a woman, they dress more feminine. Now, when I go into queer spaces, I feel like I've got to dress more masc because I am straight presenting, and I'm like, I want them to know that I'm a little bit gay. At least in like the realm of Manchester, it's like, it's so like kind of stereotypical. Like, there's one lesbian club, and I'm gonna be honest, like a lot of it is either like I feel it is a stereotype in like the women queer community of like you have your mask lesbians and then you have like your lipstick lesbians, like your femme lesbians, and they date. When really that's not the case. There's like how you dress or present yourself doesn't dictate how gay you are. But because those are the only circles, queer circles that I sort of know, I feel like I've got to basically wear a fucking badge that says I'm gay. And that badge can be, I don't know, instead of a skirt, wearing baggy pants, or like if I've done a full beat on the face, like have the hair not fully. And it's just like I just want to be me. I just want to be able to wear what I want, do my makeup how I want, wear a mini skirt, wear fucking baggy pants, and be gay and be me, and not have people question if I'm gay enough and stuff like that. And to be honest, maybe this is all in my head because I know a lot of it is, but I still feel a need to, in queer spaces, prove myself. But how? Because I'm a femme that likes femmes, and when I see a girl who is dressed femme, to be fair, I actually do it myself. I'm like, oh, maybe they're straight, but then like you gotta figure it out. But like, where is the love for the bisexuals and for the femmes who like femmes? Where is the love for the people that don't like fit into stereotypes? And can I just add, there is a certain privilege that comes with being straight passing. Obviously, I'm not talking down or minimizing experience of stereotypical mask lesbians, because that comes with its own struggles that I don't know about. And this is why programs like I Kissed a Girl are so important, because I learned so many things. Like when Georgia started crying because she was finally using the word lesbian with pride, like it made me like emotional. And why am I feeling emotional right now? But like that, like, oh, even people that I look at and think, oh, now that's a gay, that's like, do you know what I mean? Still feel insecure in their sexuality. And it is because of the society we live in and the things that we've been fed as queer people. It's just fucking mad, isn't it? The reason I guess I started talking about this biphobia when I was referring to having a group is because as a bisexual, it's hard to find a group, because I mean, it really does, take it with a pinch of salt, because my lesbian friends do not treat me any differently. And they, in fact, like my friend Beth, love you. Like, she has never, made me feel less gay than her because she knew me when I dated men. Do you know what I mean? However, sometimes in the grand scheme of things, bisexuals don't feel fully welcome, obviously in the straight community or in the queer community. It's really hard because the queer community is one that I want to be in and I want to walk through with pride, and I want to be able to, if I end up finding that a man is my person, and if that does happen, God forbid, but and I have to go the rest of my life without titties, or maybe he might have titties, like, I don't know. What am I saying? But yeah, if I end up with a man as my like end game, I still want to be seen just as queer as I was before that, and it really shouldn't be too much to ask. And then at the same time, whether I like it or not, when I'm with a woman, that shouldn't erase those relationships that I've had with men, unless I come to the point whereupon I decide I am actually a lesbian, because obviously that does happen. You have lesbians who are lesbians since birth who end up falling for a man and they become bisexual. You have bisexuals who end up being lesbians. You have straight people who end up being lesbians. But for some reason it feels better for me if I end up with a woman, but I think that's just because I don't want my queerness erased. And if I'm with a man, I feel like my queerness will be erased, whereas I'm not that arsed if men are erased. But that shouldn't be the case. It shouldn't have to be either or, is what I'm trying to say, you know? I think it's time to pop another Beveragino, isn't it? So here's the ASMR for you. Oh yeah. I keep coughing. There's so much dust flying around my room. It sounds like I'm like emotional. I'm not really. It's my voice, like, or I sound like I've been smoking 50 a day. It's just like my vocal cords aren't lubricated enough and there's loads of dust in my room because I'm a dirty fucking bitch. But then it is also like, do I have that innate preference towards queerness because maybe deep down I am a lesbian? Like, I wrote in my notes animosity towards straight people, which it's not animosity, but like when I see like a straight couple, I'm like, okay, like, get a room. But if I see like two gays or two lesbians, I'm like, so cute. Like, when are you getting married? Can I come to the wedding? Like, can I be the ring bearer? I love you so much. Do you know what I mean? And there is such a huge lesbian renaissance at the minute, isn't there? Like, we've got Chapel Roan, we've got Renee Rapp, and obviously Renee Rapp, I need to have words with her. Like, I actually need to sit down with her and like unpack my sexuality with her, because I feel like our journeys feel, I mean, obviously I don't know the girl, and I've only really listened to like one podcast with her. My top is her lyrics, good tits, big heart, because now I don't have to stuff my bra with socks because I've got natural titties and I love them. But yeah, Renee Rapp, she wrote Tummy Hurts, which is about her heartbreak over a man, and then came out as a lesbian. So if Renee can do it, then maybe that's the path for me as well. But because I'm not like the type of person who, like, I don't really, like I said, even when I was younger, but I still don't now, I don't sleep with people who I don't have a relationship with, and I don't just be getting into relationships here, there, and everywhere, because again, I have borderline personality disorder, and being in a relationship is a big trigger for me. And I'm like kind of happy single, so then it's like, well, when do you explore? Because I wish that I could be the type of person who, like, I could like sleep with a few men, sleep with a few like queer people, and like explore that way, but it's just it's not, I just don't think it's for me. Like, ugh, it makes me, ugh. To be fair, this is again another thing where I'm like, am I a fucking lesbian? Because the thought of the thought of sleeping with a man, and, you know, I feel, I don't, there's no sucking. You know what I'm trying to say, okay? I'm sorry, I'm not saying it. I will gag. I will literally throw up on this microphone right now. But doing nice things to a man's genitals makes me feel ew. I'm like, and even when I had boyfriends, I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to. I still do it sometimes because, like, I've had, like, because, anyways. Oh, by the way, like, it wasn't ever forced on me. Like, it was by choice, just to clarify. For all my exes out there, like, I know. Whereas the thought of, you know, doing that with a woman or sleeping with a woman, even if I don't really know them, it's like, oh, beautiful. It's like sleeping with a man is like the slime when Nickelodeon do that award show, and sleeping with a woman is like unicorns and rainbows and fairies and sparkles. So why is that? Am I a lesbian? Or is it just fact that women are just better? I don't know. Help me out. Let me know if anyone wants to know. And I feel like I've struggled with, like I said, this confusion with my sexuality since the dawn of time, since I first, like, acknowledged it, since I first came out. But I went through, and I'm still in a big turning point, because a few months ago I discovered something called the Lesbian Master Doc. Now, if you don't know what the Lesbian Master Doc is, it is basically a booklet written by someone who thought they were a bisexual turned lesbian, and all the signs that you as a bisexual woman can use to decipher whether or not you are lesbian and suffering with compulsory heterosexuality, or whether you're actually just bisexual and you are actually attracted to men. Now, when I first read this, I spiraled because I related to a lot of it, and I actually did originally do a whole podcast on this, and the audio didn't record properly, so I obviously haven't used it, and I'm kind of glad, because one, it was very much like, it wasn't very yappy, it was more like I had a lot of notes and it was all about this lesbian master doc. However, I am aware that the person who ended up writing this master doc is actually, I think, bisexual now, and a lot of the things were a response to their trauma around men, and it's also kind of frowned upon in some spaces because apparently it's like kind of biphobic or lesbophobic. So there are valid points in this master doc that really did make me think. And obviously, at the time of first reading it, I didn't really know about the lore of it. I suppose I was just in bed and I was like, "Oh fuck, this has put a spanner in the works." Okay, now why? However, compulsory heterosexuality is very much a thing, and I do think I am, regardless of whether I am a lesbian or bisexual, I am affected by it. It is essentially because we live in a patriarchal, misogynistic society, whereupon from a young age people assume men like women and women like men, and that is pushed onto us. And I do think maybe it would be valid to do a whole podcast episode on unpacking this, because I thought I'd be able to fit it all into one episode, but clearly I have a lot going on in my head when it comes to my sexuality. And I think compulsory heterosexuality and the lesbian master doc, and all of the valid and invalid points that it makes are like have value, and I'd love to discuss that with you guys as well, because like I always say, someone else is definitely going through it as well, and you are definitely thinking the same fucking things as me, and it's just so annoying how you can't just know or just like flick a switch and have your sexuality decided for you, and it be actually what you want. It's especially hard when like you're someone like me who, you know, doesn't get that much experience exploring my sexuality. And that sounds really lame, but I'm just being real. Like, you do know what it is? Actually, I'm gonna say it because Chapel Roan said it recently. She said that, I can't remember it was, but she was talking about being demisexual and how she feels weird because she can't just sleep with people. And if Chapel Roan can say it, then so can I. Because like I do sometimes think that maybe I am demisexual as well, or maybe I'm just wildly insecure, and that is why I can't have casual sex. Or maybe I've like, I don't know. I'm going to London on Monday, and me and my friend Beth, who I mentioned before, and her girlfriend Cole, we've got a few queer spaces that we're gonna hit. I just feel like I've outgrown Manchester. I don't know what it is, but there's just something about that queer space that feels very stereotype driven. Like I mentioned before, like there's one lesbian club, I don't even think it's there anymore, and like I'd force my friends to go because it was like a lesbian club and I'd want to talk to other lesbians, but god, it was scatty. Like, and it's just like very much like, even when I first came, when I was 18, you were told, like, don't bother trying to get into GAY, like, they'll only accept you if you look gay, which I've never had a problem getting into GAY, and I do think that was a bit of an old wives' tale, and maybe that was the case at some point, but trust me, that gay village is fucking not gay anymore, bitch. Like, the straights be roaming the streets as regularly as they do the local Tesco. Let me tell you that. And it's just not fun anymore. Whereas I feel like these queer spaces in London, or like even there is one in Manchester, there's this party called Riot Party, which is like a sex positive party. And I went, and it is just very, like, I dressed in something so sexy and so girly, and it no one presumed that I wasn't gay because of how I was dressed, and I felt like that I could literally be wearing the most femme thing, and people, because it's a sex positive, queer positive, open place, it's more about, and the people that go there are like very open-minded people who want their own community and want their own group and want to mingle. Like, you aren't judged for how you look. And you know, my friend was there. I brought my friend who is straight, and that is fine. And like, and I didn't ever have to question if a girl was giving me the eyes if she just fucking liked me top, or if she liked me tits in top. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like, and that's what I feel like these spaces that we're going to in London will more be like, because it was the same in Berlin. Like, the places we went to in Berlin, those sex positive queer places, again, it is the assumption that everyone there is a little bit of something, or a little bit more open-minded, at least, even if sexuality is not on the table, or gender queer, whatever. And I just feel so much more able to be myself and wear what I want. So I'm hoping when we go to these places in London, it's a similar vibe, because if the Europeans can do it, so can we. And obviously I love Manchester, but for some reason, maybe it's just because I've lived here for so long, but it does give me small town vibes. Like, it's kind of a small city, in my opinion. And whereas London has so many different hubs, I hate to be a London, like, I hate London, it's horrible, kill it. But also, like, it's full of loads of different communities and cultures, and that's what I love. Whereas at least the gay community in Manchester, like, it's a lot harder to find your people because it's very much infiltrated by the general public, and I don't know, it just doesn't feel the same as it used to, maybe when I was a baby gay and I was 18, and the thought of having a whole village dedicated to gay people was beyond my wildest dreams. But yeah, it's kind of hot, which I'm confused about, even though it's July, but my window is closed and I am literally burning up, and I'm starting to get a bit lightheaded, not to be dramatic, so I think I'm gonna have to end the podcast here, and maybe if you guys want it, we can do another episode where we discuss compulsory heterosexuality and like relationships with men when it comes to queerness and things like that, because there's a lot to unpack. Why I move so much, but thank you so much if you've sat through this, because I have yapped. I have yapped till the cows have come home and they've gone back out again. So it's time for me to go. But thank you so much for listening, and please remember to rate this podcast if you're listening on Spotify. Give me a follow. I am Tits T Trauma with 2 A's at the end on Instagram, and Tits T Trauma podcast on TikTok. Go and share my shit, please. I'm asking you from one gay to another. Right. See you later. Thank you.